Okay, guys, how are we all doing? Is it all not bad this morning for a nice warm Tuesday?
Yeah, no, really good, really good. How about you, Mike?
It's very warm in the office. I don't know if you can tell.
Is that bead of sweat on your forehead?
Slight bit of sweat on our forehead, yeah. So we've been having lots and lots of questions coming in during the session, which is fantastic, and a lot of praise for the quality of what you guys have been doing this morning. So thank you very much for that. What I'd like to be able to do is just run through a number of these questions and get the perspective from all of you on some of these key points that people have raised. So without further ado, we'll get started on that. So I guess one for you, Rob, initially. It's all to do with the impacts of the ICS on your data strategy and how you're kind of teaming up across the region.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Yeah, I mean, it's super important, you know, for all healthcare organisations within the NHS to be thinking strategically how data is going to enable the big transformation that needs to happen across integrated care systems. So yeah, so you know, I think for us, we've already, I guess referring back to my my talk, sort of thinking about strategically the framework to deliver that full kind of end-to-end analytics and data management and AI delivery, you know, which can within the cloud, which can then be applied to join together multiple care providers, multiple commissioners, and other bodies is really important. Yeah, so you know, for us, you know, we're working with you as a team to deploy Qlik SaaS across a number of providers within our ITS, and I think yeah, it's really important for people to be thinking about not just how they deploy analytics, but how they move the data from a range of disconnected organisations and streamline it to the people who need to use it to make decisions. So yeah, really important.
Yeah, and I guess Nick, as your role as account director over at Qlik in the healthcare sector, are you kind of getting those conversations coming to you from the ICSs?
Absolutely, it's a big focus for us, and I think it's something that no one's quite got figured out yet in terms of how we bring the data together across multiple providers, how we centralize that, who can take responsibility for it, and then how do we serve that information in the way that it needs to be served to the various different individuals and organizations that are going to access that information. So we think we've got a great platform to help enable some of those capabilities. Of course, we're not going to solve the cultural challenge, but if we can solve some of that digital challenge, as it were, then hopefully we can really help drive that integrated care initiative forward.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we saw something in Scotland a few years ago where people were able to take that kind of cookie cutter approach to sharing applications and sharing that type of, you know, best practice as well. So hopefully we'll start to see that flowing through. Matthieu, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Brilliant, and we can hear you loud and clear as well. That's great. So a couple of questions have come in around the solution that you've been working on and trialing, and I guess one of the key areas is, you know, what kind of time savings are people alluding to as part of the trial and as part of sort of the analysis of the solution?
Yeah, thanks. So we're just starting to run the trial, so I don't have definite data. But what's clear is that there's a huge potential. So currently, coders, you know, they spend anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes on a single patient spell, and you know, that means doing a lot of scrolling through different notes. At Imperial, they use a Cerner, so PowerChart, to scroll through all those records and you know, look for relevant past medical history, relevant diagnoses, relevant procedures, and so on. A lot of time actually reading a lot of information that's irrelevant, and I think this is really where the tool has a lot of potential for basically bringing all that relevant information forward and suggesting a list of codes that will be relevant to a particular encounter. So you know, if we take an average value of let's say 10 minutes per encounter in the current workflow, based on not very complicated patients, you know, things like day cases or, you know, highly repetitive, low complexity cases. So I think 10 minutes is realistic based on the workflow analysis that we've done. We can reasonably expect to cut this at least by a factor of 2. So, but it's not only about cost savings, right? It's also about improving the accuracy, reducing the variability. So there are other benefits besides time savings.
No, and I think some of the other questions that will come to in as part of this session will also dig a little bit deeper into that. But that's massively useful. I guess just back to you, Rob, in terms of the impact at sort of executive and C-level within Morecambe Bay. I mean, it's great to, you know, get some awards every now and again, but what have people really been seeing at that kind of coalface?
Yeah, we've seen a massive shift, Mike. So, you know, we've seen a culture shift in terms of the organisation's confidence in using data to really underpin decision making, and, you know, a real shift towards both real time and predictive use of data and analytics, and you know, that's absolutely driven from the board right down through the organisation. I was thinking about it. So, you know, some of the things which are really unlocked that are, yeah, you know, confidence in live analytics, predictive analytics, confidence in the use of AI. You know, we've got data robots so tightly integrated into our Qlik Sense framework that it's driving decisions now which are, you know, sort of patient safety critical. A huge pull around augmented analytics, you know, particularly some of the Qlik SaaS augmentation alerting is massive. You know, we know that the use of Qlik alerting by clinical teams saves patient lives. You know, we've quantified that, and the use of other augmentation capabilities, such, you know, as write back as well. You know, we're building apps now which are integrated really tightly into clinical workflow. You know, we're building one at the moment which is looking to flag patients who are at risk of stroke upon admission to ED, and to use write back and alerting to then flag those patients so that they can have clinical action taken to them in real time within you know, a target window, which is 4 hours. It's transformative, and yeah, the executive team are fully behind it. So it's yeah, it's a great place to be.
As you say, that calibration and that sort of, you know, stakeholder engagement, you know, cannot be undersold in any of the kind of work that you're doing. Just touching on awards, Adam, have you got some information, some news for us about something that's been going on in the healthcare recently?
Yeah. So actually, yesterday there was an announcement that IDC had awarded Mark Singleton and the team at Wrightington, Wigan and Lee an award for a fantastic data strategy, which we've been working alongside with them, and it's very, very interesting to see them being recognised by IDC. I think it's the first for an NHS organisation around this, and I know when myself and Nick talked about it, you've got great examples today for what Rob has talked about, as well as also what the team at Mark is doing, and lots of different customers are doing fantastic things with Qlik. We would like if people could come forward as much as possible to share those use cases, so we can really tell to the rest of the NHS about these different use cases and how Qlik is a formidable analytics platform that they can get great value from and deliver better patient care. Don't you agree, Nick?
Absolutely, yeah. It's brilliant to see Rob and the Morecambe Bay team, and also Mark and the WWL team getting this kind of recognition. We'd love to capture what other organisations are doing and add to the pool of elite NHS teams that are doing fantastic things with analytics and with Qlik. Certainly, we're encouraged to do so with the likes of Imperial, Great Ormond Street and such, but if you feel that you have got some fantastic things in play, or indeed you want to talk to us about ideas that you have about fantastic things to do but need a bit of support, both myself and the Qlik team and the Catalyst team, we're all here to help, and we'd love to come and spend that time with you, help you get up to the levels of Morecambe Bay Wigan and help you be the next award winners.
No, thanks for that, Nick and Adam. So I guess in terms of the technologies, Rob, that were highlighted within your kind of data strategy, there was lots of different vendors in there. So it wasn't just about Qlik, was it? There was lots of other component parts. So how hard or how easy has it been to integrate those in a seamless way?
Yeah, really easy. I would say, I think as long as one has the kind of cloud first mentality, around modern systems which are designed to operate in the cloud and integrate using APIs. I would say the kind of challenge around interoperability with the modern platforms we're using and vendors. I guess for us that's Qlik, Snowflake, Data Robot, and others. The interconnectivity is kind of is secondary concern now. So I think within healthcare there's obviously need to nail down the information sharing and information governance frameworks, and I really urge people to do that up front and to do that as part of the sort of procurement process, and really think about how that could work and make sure it's an enabler rather than something which causes a problem further down the line. But we've found the sort of concept of flowing data from source to user and sort of passing it through various platforms hosted within the cloud, within different clouds, has been remarkably easy.
And I think that's really, really important to hear, isn't it? Because there's a lot of what we would call a stack approach that doesn't actually pick up that best of breed capability. And we know that, to be able to deploy something and get instantaneous responses from that is really, really key. Gone are the days of the 18-month data warehouse project. Things have to be literally instantaneous.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I just add, Mike, as well. I think important to work, as a customer, work with vendors, enable free access and sort of liberty to use systems as a customer wants to. So I get avoiding data lock-in, which could be an issue with some vendors. Pick platforms which allow an open flow of data around the user requirements is really important.
Agreed. So, Matthieu, another question back for you, and it's to do with the due diligence, and I'm sure Rob, you might want to chime in as well around this, particularly when it comes to machine learning. So, how are you ensuring that those algorithms and models are playing in the right space and delivering the kind of percentages that you're looking for?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at the first thing is that we're academics, right? We are using state-of-the-art machine learning techniques to that basically underpin all this technology. So that's one thing, and then that means that we follow state-of-the-art practices. So, for example, there's a training, validation, test split in the data. So the performance metrics that we report are based on the test data, so it's not been used for training. We limit the risk of overfitting, for example. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing is the plan, the proposed workflow is that we would recalibrate the models if needed in various departments where this would be used. So if we train a model on respiratory medicine, on a data set of respiratory medicine patients, you would have to recalibrate that model if you were to use it, I don't know, in orthopedic surgery, right? That's completely expected because these are different patient cohorts, and if you want to have the best model performance, then those models need to be retrained, at least to some extent. So that's called transfer learning in machine learning. And I would say the last point is that we're not closing the loop here, right? We're not getting rid of humans. This is a decision support system. So the algorithm will suggest codes for coders, and then they can decide whether those codes are appropriate or not based on seeing the source document on the same page. So and then they can correct those codes suggested, and this is fed back into the model for further learning. So it's a decision support system, right? We still have the human in the loop that's able to, you know, confirm or dismiss some codes.
Yeah. And Rob, have you seen similar things with the use of Data Robot?
Yeah, I think yes, linking on from those comments, three areas are really important for me. You know, one is as non-academics, having an enterprise AI platform to enable us to work within is really important. So, you know, the concept of non-black box AI for a sort of a more practitioner-based approach is really important. So I think that's one. Secondly, yeah, I mean, Matthieu's referenced it. We're really aware of data drift. You know, I think in terms of as COVID's, you know, really impacting all data worldwide, but particularly within healthcare, it is so volatile at the moment. We're finding that we need to, you know, we have a system with Data Robot where we can monitor data drift and we can adjust our models on a frequent basis. And finally, the being aware of bias, you know, unintended bias is really important. So we're challenging ourselves and working with colleagues, academic colleagues, and colleagues within Data Robot to check that, you know, we understand how us as individuals and our data may unintentionally be biasing our models, and, you know, taking the best precautions we can to avoid that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, as a Catalyst strapline says, it says about bringing people and data together, and it does need that decision support and that human intervention, regardless of how amazing these machine learning models could be. There's no silver bullet in any of this. It's all about learning and learning and learning.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess, you know, Matthieu, you are a clinician as well, so you talked about, you know, the academic side of what you do, but you know, you're there, you're in procedures. So what excites you about the analytics and AI space in healthcare?
I mean, this is such a vast question. You know, any clinical application could be, or any clinical workflow could be improved by data analytics in theory, you know, if it's developed and deployed properly. But maybe there's three big areas. One being patient flow, so, you know, predicting things like bed occupancy or any attendance. We've been using a dashboard at Imperial for patients with sepsis throughout the trust, and you know, that's actually using Qlik to just to put this out. But it's been very powerful throughout COVID, including throughout COVID. Another field of application is prediction. So prediction of relevant outcomes or clinical events. So things like sepsis or I suppose, you know, stroke, like what the application that Rob was referring to. So you know, if this is if this delivers on the promises, imagine being able to predict sepsis a few hours before it actually occurs in the hospital, you know, provided patients are in the hospital when the prediction is applied. But you could intervene earlier, right? And you could potentially improve outcomes significantly. And I guess the third field of application is around data management, and that's pretty much what we're working on. So you know, improving capture of data, processing of data, recording data quality, and obviously coding when you know, when the patients are done with their encounter, and then codes need to be generated for the patient stay. So I would say these are the three big fields of applications that I think are achievable and would be the most useful to clinicians.
No, it's good to get that clinician's view on it. I mean, we could all give you a view, but you wouldn't let us operate on you either. So I think I'll take your stand on that one. So Nick, I mean, just from your side of things, you've got this broader vision and broader view of what's actually going on within the kind of NHS and dealing with a lot of clients. You know, Adam brought the image up. There's about 170 organisations using Qlik. So what are you seeing out there at the moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, we touched on the ICS side of things, and hand in hand goes with that goes the population health management capability, which Cheshire CCG have done a fantastic job on building a population health management, a risk stratification capability within Qlik, initially in Qlik View, and then transposed it into Qlik Sense, made it available through cloud, and are serving a range of GPs and various other users across the whole of Cheshire with that. I've seen a lot more NHS organisations going for the SaaS platform. Obviously, we had a lot of concerns initially around where the data was going to be hosted, what the privacy and security rules were around that. But we've gone through the DPIA process with Rob and with many others, and I think people now have the confidence that we've got sufficient numbers of NHS organisations using the platform that we can really escalate that up. And of course, that offers a whole range of other possibilities. We definitely want to start looking at those integrated care use cases, and I know Rob is exploring those already, and other NHS providers want to do so. The acute trusts are looking at how they can make their service available to other organisations within the ICS and help them accelerate that. I think through some of our roundtables that we have with some of our top NHS customers, we saw some fantastic use cases over the back end of last year. Obviously, a number of those were focused on how they were dealing with the COVID situation, how they were managing occupancy, how they were making sure that everything was being dealt with. And I think the obvious one that is now at the top of everyone's mind is the whole recovery process. How do we get on top of the elective backlog? And I do feel like there's a perspective to look at that from an ICS point of view as well, rather than individual providers trying to figure out how to manage their recovery backlog. Why don't we look at it as an integrated care system and see who's got more capacity where, how we can make greater efficiencies across the network of providers and help accelerate that recovery process. So there's some wonderful things going on all over the place, and I'm really excited to see how we help people get through the final stages, hopefully, of this pandemic, and how we get back on top of things and indeed ahead of the game.
No, agreed. And Dan's been waiting patiently as well in the wings. So the first technical question that's come in relating to the demo, Dan, that you delivered earlier on in terms of defining colour palettes. So straightforward question, I guess.
Yeah, there's a few ways you can do that. Within each measure and dimensions, you can define colour palettes. So you define it once and then you can use it around the apps. I know Rob's got experience of this, of creating themes. I know Rob likes to use a really cool theme up in Morecambe Bay, neon themes. So you can create corporate themes as well and apply those to all your apps then. And we find that's a really good way to make put everything on brand. So yeah, you can define colours either individually, create colour palettes within master measures and dimensions, or you can actually create themes which you can then apply to apps.
No, thanks for that, Dan. And we were due to finish at 12:15, but there are one or two other questions I think quite relevant and quite important still. So if we can maybe run to about 20 past, and then we'll kick into the workshop. So I guess just in terms of the catalogue question as well, Dan, in terms of adding descriptions to data items, flags in about GDPR, etc. Obviously, I think that requires a bit more of a demo to individuals. But have you got anything you just want to add to that?
Yeah, you can add descriptions to data sets, and obviously add things like personal information, GDPR flags on those data sets, like I did during the demo. I've just seen there about the mapping module. So yeah, that's if we're on about the map object within Qlik Sense, that is available within all versions of Sense. And I think it's just a really powerful, Qlik is probably one of the best out-of-the-box mapping BI solutions, and I think people are using those maps in really innovative ways. So they're available on cloud and on phones as well.
Okay, thanks for that, Dan. Okay, I've got on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is ML, predictive forecasting on time series data, and what other industries benefit from predictive forecasting solutions? Rob, I'll come to you quickly on that one.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is machine learning predictive forecasting? Yeah, I mean, so super important. You know, we're driving data robot integrated to Qlik Sense is driving real live clinical performance and delivery within Morecambe Bay hospitals 24 hours a day. So I'd give it a 10. We're seeing some really good accuracy in terms of results, and we're working at a pace that we could never work at without an enterprise platform to enable it.
I think we've seen quite a number of uses of predictive in the corporate world as well. So in some of our larger retailers, they're using it to forecast new locations and new store locations. Even though it feels as though the world's gone virtual, there's still a requirement to actually find the right location to actually service individuals. And we're also still with cash flow management. So the supply chain was impacted hugely in a lot of areas, distribution, and being able to predict cash flow forecasting has been a really powerful area. So I would say, you know, when you've got that model right, it's certainly up there between a 9 and a 10. Okay, Dan, data loads into Athena. How does it do that, and how does it cope with the real-time nature of the data?
Yeah, so we've got a very standardized format for what we pull out. So we don't pull out absolutely everything. So we've got a standard set of columns that we've pre-agreed to actually get out. So we only bring out of the database the minimum amounts that we need to obviously run all the charts. So we don't do a very large data load, and that's really important, and that's how we can not overwhelm the database when running in real time. Because that's the key with Athena, is having those real time. So the answer is we've got a set standard number of columns that we know we need to pull out, and we don't pull out anything that doesn't drive a KPI in the front end.
And you'll be seeing that as well, Rob, as users of obviously the command center.
Yeah, we do, and I think performance is really good. And I agree with Dan. You know, it's sort of you process the minimum amount of data to derive the maximum value. And I think, I guess, sort of thinking about the user interface and the design that Dan will have taught through. You know, make sure every piece of data that's presented in analytics is there for purpose and will drive action. Really helps to keep it trim.
I agree. Okay, one for you, Matthieu. Obviously, Medico, how does it differentiate with its historic diagnosis codes that aren't relevant to spell diagnosis codes?
I mean, it depends on the training data. So if in the training data there were some older historic codes that were not relevant anymore, and that end up not being on the output of that particular training instance, then the model will not predict it either. And then, you know, again, I would say that we'll probably have the threshold for outputting codes quite low, meaning the sensitivity might be quite high, but specificity rather lower. You know, we'd rather be too exhaustive in terms of suggested codes than too restrictive, and then at least at the start the coders will obviously double check everything and make sure that each code is still relevant and is spell.
Okay, great. And we can take that offline as well with the person that's actually asked that question, and maybe hook you two up after the session. So, and again, this is a very interesting Medicodes. How do we get hold of people afterwards? So we'll be able to do that, put the right people in touch with each other to get that one finished.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that concludes the sort of general Q&A session. It's one of those things that you say, have you got a last word? And obviously it's never one word, but I think, you know, our two guest speakers with Rob and Matthieu, you know, just a final word from both of you, please. Rob first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's a really exciting time to be involved in the analytics and AI space. I think, you know, great showcasing of capability this morning, Mike, and yeah, onwards and upwards.
Yeah, thanks, Ali, for that. And that's really spontaneous, but I want to say how great it's been working with you guys at Catalyst. All the work that you've put into the interface. I've been really impressed throughout with all the expertise and the technical and domain expertise as well that you have in-house. We're continuing working with you.
Okay, thank you, Matthieu. And Nick and Adam and Dan, thank you ever so much for joining the panel today. It's been really great hearing your NHS and healthcare experiences, but also the way that you also operate with customers. I think, you know, everything is about driving the right solution. Everything is about solving problems. And it's always great to see that within the team. So thank you very much for joining the panel today, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks, Mike.